paper 2 of November 2024, and this is a question paper from the Northwest province. So in terms of instructional information, we have got 3 sections: Section A, Section B, and Section C. Section A is a compulsory. Section B, you have to answer 2 of the 3 questions, and then Section C, you answer 1 of the 2 questions. So basically, this is what we have. Then, of course, in terms of the first part, that is our multiple choice section, that is on Section A. Our Section A has got a total of 30 marks and requires you to spend on average 20 minutes. So all the first question that we have, it reads the dash price. The dash price of a good indicates if the good is cheaper or more expensive compared to another good. So we've got absolute, show, relative, direct. So in fact, the correct answer is that the relative price of a good indicates if the good is cheaper or more expensive compared to another. So according to our responses, you see that relative, we have it on C. And moving on to question 2. Question 2, the individual business within the perfect market will make this profit in the long run. So you see that in the long run, obviously they will make normal profits. Remember, in the short run, there will be few firms, so they'll be making normal profits. But then, as new firms start to enter at the market, remember, there are no barriers to entry in the perfect market. So any firm that wants to operate can operate. So in the long run, there will be many firms that will be operating due to no barriers, and then the abnormal profits that were being earned in the short run will be wiped away and become a normal profit. So we have normal A. Then 1.3, when the demand for a good decrease with an increase in income, it is a dash good. We've got abnormal, subnormal, superior, normal, and inferior. So the correct response that we have, of course, the question says when the demand for a good will decrease when the income is increasing. So in that case, we see that this is an inferior good. So we have D. We have number 4. When a product is test, producers must decrease prices to increase revenue. So when the product is in that scenario, it should the producers must decrease price to increase revenue. So you see that when it is relatively elastic, it means it's not it's not very much responsive or sensitive to price changes in terms of the demand. So this is what we have. So we have got A. Then move on to number 5. On number 5, dash is the practice of taking control of another country. So of course, capitalism, colonialism, ideology, exploitation. So we say that colonialism is the correct answer that we have, which is B. Then moving on to the next part. The dash monitors international trade agreements. Which monitors international trade agreements? We have got International Monetary Fund, World Trade Organization, World Bank, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. So you see that the correct one that we have is the World Trade Organization, which we have on B. So number 7, dash is a policy that strives to provide a basic quality of life for all people. So this is sustainable. Sustainable development is the correct response. So number 8, the environmental levy on carbon dioxide emissions of new motor vehicles manufactured in South Africa. We've got marketable permits, quality standards, voluntary agreements, green taxes. So the correct answer that we have is D, green taxes. Then moving on to 1.2, you have to choose a description from column B that matches the item in column A. Of course, we have got inflation as the first term. Remember, inflation represents the general increase in price levels. So within that context, we check which one do matches inflation. So if we check C, a sustainable increase in the general price levels indicates inflation. So we have C. In short run, Short run is the immediate periods after the business is being run. So in that period, we have got at least one factor of the production being fixed. So in that case, we check which one do match that explanation. Or if we go to uh, E, not all costs can be adjusted. So E is the correct response. Then, of course, utility is the satisfaction gains from goods that are being consumed. So within that, we check again. We've got certification on F, certification gained from consuming goods or services. So we've got F. Complementary products, we know that these are products that are used at the same time. So check in terms of our responses. We've got further responses as we go down. H, goods that are used in conjunction with each other. So we've got H as the correct answer. And then we go to deforestation. Obviously, the cutting down of trees is related to G. Cutting down, we've got cutting down of forests, cutting down forests to make place for housing. So G is the most appropriate. Then we've got a heterogeneous products. The heterogeneous products, remember, they are differentiated products. So we do that context again. Check what do that we've got. Further responses that we can check. Of course, the most appropriate is unique products. So they are differentiated. So we've got D. Variable cost is a cost that changes with the number of units. So it varies with the number of units. So according to our responses, you see that when this electricity fuel, they do change with the number of units. So we have got B as the most appropriate. The multinational corporation, of course, is a business or company that is operating in various countries. So in that case, we do check which one we have. A is the most appropriate, a giant company with branches in other countries. So we've got A. So that's we move on to the next part, which is now 1.3. You have to give one term for each of the following descriptions. So our descriptions that we have, the first one is saying demand that are only needed for what it can produce and not for its own sake. Demand that are only needed for what it can produce and not for its own sake. So see that this is a derived demand. Then 1.3.2, large businesses that usually initiate price changes in the market, they are price leaders. We'll move on to the next part whereby saying countries that provide new investment opportunities, they are emerging economies. Emerging economies. So we have emerging economies. That are on number 4, the removal of trade barriers between countries. We call that trade liberalization. So basically, it's trade liberalization. We'll move on to the next part that we have, which is now question 5. Movement of people from rural to urban areas. Of course, this is urbanization. Number 6, gases that trap heat in the atmosphere. represents greenhouse emissions. Represents greenhouse emissions. Can be greenhouse emissions, or we can just call them greenhouse gases. Greenhouse emissions or greenhouse gases. So this is what we have in section A with a total of 30 marks. So with that, we move on to the next section, which is now our section B. Of course, our section B, we are going to look at microeconomics. You have to answer the following questions. First one, name two factors of production. Remember, we have labor, capital, entrepreneurship, also have land or natural resources. Then on the next question, why would a business have costs when producing when production is zero? So obviously, this is because of fixed costs. Remember, fixed costs are costs which do not vary with the level of output or the number of units. So at 0 units, you can also incur fixed costs. For example, rent. So total cost of production consists of fixed costs, example, rent and salaries that must be paid irrelevant of production are taking place, and variable costs example, a percent raw material. So you'll see that this is because of fixed costs. Then second point, when firms have no production, they'll still have to pay fixed costs. Only when firms start producing do they start paying for variable costs. So this is the explanation that we have on that part. So 2.2, you have to start the cartoon below and answer the question that follow. Of course, we have to have a cartoon that we have. And then the question is, name any product brand depicted in the cartoon above. Of course, we've got the Coke as indicated, and then we also have Pepsi as a product of a brand. So we have got a brand as indicated there, Coke and Pepsi. So these are the responses that we have. And of course, on the second part, identify the relationship between the products in the cartoon above. So the relationship that we have is they are substitute products. They are substitute products. They can be used for the same purpose. Then if we check on the next question, we have to describe the term monopolistic competition. But monopolistic competition basically is a market structure with many companies selling similar but not identical products. Like restaurants, examples of monopolistic competition, or clothing shops are also examples of monopolistic competition. So we have a brief description that we have here, which is a combination of perfect and imperfect competition characterized by many buyers and sellers. Firms in this market use product differentiation to attract customers. So this is what we have. But on the next question, why would suppliers of this type of products have recommended selling prices? So this way, the producer can inform the customer directly of the price of product should be sold for. Uh, so basically, this is the first point. The second point, producers can use this as a form of price standardization when the product is sold in many different outlets in a region. So those are the reasons that we have. Why would suppliers of this type of product have recommended selling prices? So 2.2.5, how do suppliers in this market segment communicate their uniqueness to customers? So of course, the segment that we're referring to is monopolistic competition. So these are the responses that we have. Producers sell products that are similar but not homogeneous. They are differentiated in terms of they can be differentiated in terms of ingredients, packaging, or trademarks. So they are differentiated producers, and they obviously have to communicate this to consumers that their product is differentiated from the competitor. So on the second part, if a consumer is convinced that there is a differentiation or uniqueness, they will be willing to pay a higher price for the product. So these are responses that we have. Further responses we also have on that part. Then in terms of the next question, uh, which is now going to be our question 2.3. You have to start the table below and answer the questions that follow. So we have got a table that you need to go through. The first question says identify the schedule in the table above. So this is the total cost schedule is indicated. Then on the second question, what is the total cost of producing 35 units? So we have 35 units in this part. That's where we put 35 units. And of course, they require the total cost. So if you go straight into the total cost, we have it at this point in the column for total cost. So we've got 1,260 rands. Then I briefly describe the term economies of scale. Economies of scale, there are benefits that are enjoyed by producing in bulk, that is producing in large quantities. So according to our description of economies of scale, it's a falling average cost as the costs are divided by more units of output. Then, alternatively, firms wants to produce a specific quantity of output or units that will enable it to experience a decrease in the cost of production per unit. So these are the explanations that we have in terms of economies of scale. Then 2.3.4 explains the concept of long run in relation to cost in a business. So the long run, in the long run, we've got all factors of production becoming variable, and they can be changed or adjusted. That's the business can now expand and again regain the advantage of economies of scale. So we'd say that long run as opposed to short run. Short run, we are having at least one factor being fixed, but then in the long run, they all become variable. So that's very important to take note. We move on to the next one, which is 2.3.5. Explain the shape of the marginal cost scale. So the marginal cost curve is the graphical representation of the relationship between the marginal cost and the quantity of output produced by the firm. And usually has a U shape, which means the marginal cost decreases for low levels of output and increases for larger output quantities. The shape of the marginal cost curve is U-shaped, indicating that our marginal cost falls in the beginning due to increasing return, and ultimately it rises due to the operation of low of decreasing return. So this is the explanation that we have on that part. Then on 2.4, it reads, with the aid of a graph, explain how a firm can determine its profit maximization level. So this is what we have with a graph. And so this is a typical graph that we are supposed to come with. And of course, on the explanations of the graph, we have the explanations as shown, whereby initially the total curve would be above the total cost curve would be above the total revenue curve. But as production increases and we achieve break even, the total revenue curve will intersect the total cost curve. And the producer will make a profit of total revenue greater than total costs, which is in this part where we have a total revenue greater than total cost, which is in this part. And then at unit 6, profit to maximize is indicated at unit 6. That's where we've got the maximization of the profit. So basically, these are the explanations that we have. Then 2.5, examine the implication of non-price competition in oligopolies. So these are the responses to that. Moving on to question 3, that is on contemporary economic issues. The first question that we have, name any two multinational enterprises operating in South Africa. So we have McDonald's is a multinational, with Burger King, KFC, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. So on the next part, we have to explain the link between poverty and environmental degradation. But we say that poverty leads to people not to maintain the natural environment, that is also the natural environmental resources. So in terms of our first point, poverty is a massive threat to the environment. Surviving day to day makes people less sensitive to in maintaining the natural environmental resources. So that's the first point. The second point, poor people have large families, poor health services, which increase poverty and create further environmental pressures. So that's what we have. So very important to take note that there is a relationship that is there between size of the family and the standard of living. So if some people that are poor usually they have large families, which is going to cause a strain on the environmental resources. So we go to the next point, which is to survive, the marginalized communities cultivate erosion-prone use and clear natural vegetation or trees, making space for houses and crops, thereby exploiting the soil without replacing the nutrients. Remember, these people, they do not have a stable source of income, so they would want to rely on agriculture. So through that process, they are going to clear the environment so that they can plant crops. So in that way, we are going to say that they are not taking care our environment in a good way, whereby it's going to lead to some negatives like soil erosion. So that is what we have on the last point. So moving on to the next part, which is now on data response. Start the diagram below and answer the questions that follow. We are given a diagram where we have globalization. So first question, identify one cause of globalization from the diagram above. So you'd see that we, according to the diagram that we have, to try to analyze what can be a cause of globalization from the diagram that we have. So on that, we can see that there is technology as a cause of globalization. Obviously, the some of the countries would want to access technology from other countries. So in that case, they engage in globalization. So we've got technology as indicated. So that's one of the causes. The name one organization involved in the promotion of globalization. So remember, we've got the World Trade Organization is one that facilitates the interaction of different economies, thereby enhancing globalization. So we have those as listed. We have got the World Trade Organization as the first one. We also have World Bank, International Monetary Fund. Then on the next part, we have got described the term globalization as a process by which the people of the world are incorporated into a single world society, social, political, and economic cooperation between countries. So this is the explanation on globalization. Then I'll go to why do countries trade. Uh, the first reason is natural resources are spread unequally over the world. Countries will export surpluses and import resources, uh, goods and services that they do not have. So basically, that's what we have, because the scenario that some countries have is that they do not have some of the resources. So in that case, they would want to access those resources from other countries. They buy from other countries, thereby import from other nations. So in that way, they are engaging in international trade. So next point, countries can improve their standard of living by importing goods cheaper than producing them local. So that's the second point that we have. Then on the next question, we have to explain the importance of improving infrastructure on the growth of in globalization. So 3.2.5, we do have the responses. So in that case, we are saying for us to engage in international trade as part of globalization, it means we should have a good transport network whereby we are going to transport our goods easily. So this is part of infrastructure development. So that's the importance of infrastructure development is going to facilitate the process of globalization. So it is that efficient transport are needed for globalization. That's a very important take note. Then also transportation moves goods from one part of the world to another. Modern transport reduce distances and travel times, making the world smaller. So also developed communication technology made countries more connected. So very important in terms of infrastructure development that is in terms of enhancing globalization. So further points we also have on that part. Then of course we do have the next part that is now also on data response. We have got an extract that we have to go through the extract before we answer the question. So we've got an extract of ambient air pollution. So we need to go through the information is given. So moving on to the first part of the question, name the health organization that conduct the research in the extract above. So if you go there, you would see that from the information given, it's written that in 2019, 99% of the world's population was living in places where the WHO air quality guidelines levels were not met. And then we go down. We see that we have got the World Health Organization is indicated as WHO. So that is the organization, World Health Organization, which is also as indicated in the other section. So we have the World Health Organization. Then the next question is identify the brown environmental issue discussed in the extract above. And of course, this is air pollution. Air pollution is indicated in the extract that we have. So in that case, we have the issue of air pollution is being highlighted. And we go to the next question. Briefly describe the term genetically modified organisms. So in terms of that, the explanation on genetically modified organisms. A genetically modified organism is an organism whose genetic material is being altered using genetic engineering techniques. So this is the description of genetically modified organisms. Then on question 4, explain the impact of carbon dioxide emissions on the South African economy. Warmer temperatures can cause economic losses for a country, such as lowering agricultural yields, reducing labor productivity, and decreasing industrial output. Then on the next part, how can South Africa achieve their 350 to 420? That is uh, target by 2030. So in response to that, we have the points that we have that are explaining that the public and private sector should shift their resources and investment into the creation of a greater economy and a strong focus on the planning and creation of infrastructure to support a smooth transition to a renewable energy. Further points we also have that we can include, but question, of course, requires you to come up with 2 points. Then in terms of the objectives of the World Trade Organizations, these are the objectives that we have. Then on the next part, 3.5, analyze agricultural development, deforestation, and land degradation as problems threatening the environment. Then we have our first part is agricultural development and deforestation, and we've got points on that. And then we also have a land degradation. So moving on to question 4, which is on microeconomics and contemporary economic issues. You have to answer the following questions. First part, name any two products where demand is not influenced by increases or decreases in pricing. So the two products where demand is not influenced by increases or decreases in pricing, we have chronic medication, water during a drought. So basically, you see that these are products, obviously, they are necessary in terms of chronic medication. We are saying, obviously, the person who is under the chronic medication, he has no option, he has to buy those medications. So the demand is not going to be affected by the pricing because it's a matter of saving life. So that is what we have, the same scenario that we have in terms of water during a drought. So basically, those are the two examples that we have. So moving on to the next question, which says, how do trade liberalization improve economic development? So basically, when you're looking at a trade liberalization, it is the process of reducing or eliminating trade barriers between countries, such as tariffs and quotas, and this is to promote a free exchange of goods and services. So basically, we are saying this policy encourages increased competition and also lowers prices of consumer goods, and also have the privilege of greater access to foreign markets for businesses. So basically, that is a trade liberalization. So, how do trade liberalization improve our economic development? It's by breaking down national borders and allowing free movement of factors of production and product between countries. So, policies that prevented trade between countries are removed. So, this is the explanation that we have. Of course, on the next part, we've got the data response. Start the graph below and answer the questions that follow. Given a graph of price elasticity of supply, then well, then the first question, name the type of price elasticity of supply elasticity in the graph above. So we can see that the supply curve is more vertical. So it means it represents an inelastic elasticity of a supply. So basically, we are saying it is a relatively inelastic supply. So this is the type of price elasticity that we have as presented. So we are saying a relatively inelastic supply. Then we move on to the second part of the question. Identify the quantity supplied at the price point of 5 rands. So at the price point of 5 rands, we have got 150 as supplied. So basically, that's what we have. So on the next part, we have to briefly describe the term price elasticity of supply. So on price elasticity of supply, basically it measures how responsive the quantity supplied of the good or service is to change in its price. So it is calculated by dividing the percentage change in quantity supplied by the percentage change in price. So should see that a higher price elasticity of supply, which is greater than 1, indicates elastic supply, whereas a lower price elasticity of supply, which is less than 1, indicates inelastic supply. So in terms of briefly describing price elasticity of supply, we have the description is stated, whereby we're just saying the responsiveness of supply to a change in price. Then 4.2.4, why can a farmer not increase the supply of his product if the price increases? So the reason is that farming agricultural products takes time, or it is seasonal. If a farmer has some surplus products left, he can sell that immediately. However, the next crop will take a year to produce, by which time the advantage of price elasticity of supply is a decline. So basically, this is the reason that we have. Then moving on to the next part, which is now 4.2.5, calculate price elasticity of supply. Show all working. So we refer back to the question where we are given the so we are calculating the price of elasticity of supply, and we show all calculators. Of course, we are going to use the information as given. So of course, what is important is to put down the formula first of calculating price elasticity of supply. So basically, applies elasticity of supply. We are saying a percentage change in quantity as supplied is our numerator of a percentage change in price. So we have percentage change in quantity, supplied as our numerator, and then we divide by percentage change in price. So in that case, in terms of percentage change in quantity supplied, we go to the horizontal axis, whereby we're going to say 150 minus 100 over 100 times 100 over 1. Of course, we have 150, and then we subtract 100. We divide by 100. We multiply by 100 over 1 to get the percentage. So if you multiply by 100 over 1, the answer that we are going to get there, if you say 100 minus 150 minus 100, you get your 50. You divide by 100, so you get your answer is 50%. So this is now the numerator. Then in terms of percentage change in price, we have got price movement from 3 to 5. So we're going to say 5 minus 3 over 3. 5 minus 3 over 3 times 100 over 1. So we do that calculation, we see that the answer that we are going to get now will be 66.67 to 2 decimal places. percent. So percentage change in quantity supplied is this one, which is the quantity supplied, and then percentage change in price we've got this one. So we now make our calculation by saying percentage change in quantity supplied is 50, and then we divide by percentage change in price, which is 66.67. So we calculate like that. I'll see that we're going to get our price elasticity of supply is 0.75. So basically, this is the calculation that we have on that part. Then moving on to the next part now. We now move on to 4.3, whereby you have to start the cartoon below and answer the questions that follow. So this is the cartoon that we have. Then the first question that we have reads, identify the environmental day celebrated in the cartoon above. What is the environmental day celebrated in the cartoon above? Obviously, this is the 8th day. We have 8th day is the day we are saying. And the day that 4.3.2, then the importance of making people aware of the state of the environment. So in response to that, this is the importance that we have high levels of environmental knowledge correlate significantly with the high degree of pro-environment and conservation behavior. The more people you know, the more likely they are to recycle, be energy efficient, conserve water. The more people know, the more likely they are to recycle, and then they are be energy efficient, also conserve water. So next part, we are going to describe the term sustainable, description of sustainable development. So basically, it is an approach to growth and human development that aims to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So that is a sustainable development. Then on 4.3.4, explain how South Africa used legislation to protect the environment. So laws can't influence natural processes that cause environmental changes, but can be used to regulate human behavior. So these are the points that we have on 4.3.4. Then on the next question, 4.3.5, how will price-based methods be implemented to decrease the impact of pollution? So these are the responses that we have. Then on 4.4, we have to briefly discuss the factors determining the elasticity of demand. We've got substitution, the degree of complementarity of the product, nature of the commodity, time. Also have relative importance of an item in the total expenditure of consumers, how the product is defined, advertising, So question 4.5, you have to evaluate foreign direct investment as a cause of globalization. So first point, despite the country's many challenges, our economy has still attracted almost 100 billion in foreign direct inflows in 2023, equal to 1.4% of GDP. So we also have enhanced economic growth. The potential to contribute to a country's economic growth, the country's economic growth significantly. When foreign investors inject capital into a nation, it often results in increased production, improved infrastructure, and technological advancement. These factors collectively propel economic expansion, creating a ripple effect that benefits various sectors. So, of course, we do have various further points we have that are explaining on the evaluation of foreign direct investment as a cause of globalization. So moving on question 5, which is our essay question. The first point is to discuss in detail the characteristics of perfect markets and monopolies, which is the main part with the 26 marks. The additional part is analyze the different types of objectives that a business need to achieve with 10 marks. So of course, we are going to start with the introduction. So this is a typical introduction that you can come up with according to our essay. Then in terms of perfect markets, explanation of perfect market, it is a theoretical market structure characterized by perfect competition. And also, we have got numerous buyers and sellers, that is, many buyers and sellers that trade identical products, and no single participant can influence the price. So we are saying under the perfect market, firms, they are price takers, they do not set prices. So key features include there is free entry and exit under perfect market. There is high degree of competition and complete information for all participants. That is perfect information. So we've got also we've highlighted that the businesses that they operate under perfect market, they are price takers. Also, we've got the issue of homogeneous products. We also have the issue of profit maximization is characterized also the perfect market, whereby we are saying firms in this market aim to maximize profits, which is the difference between total revenue and total cost. So with that, moving on now to monopolies, you know that a monopoly is a market structure where we only have one firm that is operating, and the firm is a price maker. They set the prices, the monopoly set the price, and also the type of product that is sold in a monopoly is a unique product that cannot be produced by any other firm. That makes there be barriers to entry. So any firm that needs to operate in a monopoly market structure cannot easily penetrate. So this is what we have. So these are the explanation that we have on the main body, whereby we are discussing in detail characteristics of perfect markets and monopolies. So this is what we have. So in terms of number of businesses, and also we've got nature of product, that's the degree of product differentiation, barriers to entry or exit of the market. We know that in a monopoly, we have got barriers to entry. So we have control over prices, and we've got a continuation in terms of control over prices. On the next part, we've got differentiation in terms of government intervention. And moving on to the additional part, remember the additional part we going back to the additional part in terms of the requirements of how we are supposed to the question on the part of the additional part. On the additional part, it is analyze the different types of objectives that a business needs to achieve. So that is what we have. So in response to that, in terms of different types of objectives that a business needs to achieve, these are the objectives of survival, profit maximization, revenue maximization. We've got sales maximization is those. And of course, the typical conclusion that you can come up with. We say on question 6 is on microeconomics. First point, debate the positive and negative consequences of globalization with 26 marks. And then the second point, which is the additional part, analyze the impact of the North-South divide in globalization with the 10 marks. So this is the response in terms of the introduction, and then the main body. So on the main body, that's where we've got the debate of the positive and negative consequences of globalization. So on the additional part, remember the additional part says analyze the impact of the North-South divide in globalization. So in response to that, we have got other standard of living or development. The globalization inequalities. And lastly, we've got the environment. And then, of course, the conclusion. Yeah.